Welcome. The following information has been channeled from the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records are an energetic library containing all the information in the universe. They are equivalent to the biblical Book of Life, like a cosmic memory bank. Everything that has ever occurred and everything known in the universe has a unique imprint in the Akashic Records. My name is Jen Aramith, and I am an Akashic Records consultant. I channel information from the Akashic Records for individuals and for groups, and I am the primary channeler for Akashic Transformations, the most expansive and comprehensive source of information from the Akashic Records in the world. Please visit akashictransformations.net, where you can listen to hours of channeled material on dozens of different topics, and participate in live channeling events, where you can ask questions of your very own. Akashic Transformations. Welcome to a magical conversation with Spirit.
What was the trajectory of the U.S. before 9/11, and then has the trajectory of the U.S. become because of it?
Oh gosh, there's so much information to sort of define the trajectory, right? It presents itself as a single line moving in it like a vector, but of course to define that vector, it involves everything, right? Healthcare, education, religion, government, like everything. Some of the ways that I can define it for you are that much of the United States, the choices made by institutions in the United States, choices made by individuals within the United States, were based in a sense of immunity. This word immunity, it keeps coming up in the reading. It's one of the primary kind of consciousness shifts that occurred for citizens of the United States. There was just this kind of vague but very foundational and important sense of immunity in the United States. A sense of immunity that arises out of privilege, that arises out of having an excess of resources. And of course in the United States there are many people who do not have an excess of resources, but as a country you do. And so another word we can say, the sense of immunity leads to a more tangible sense of complacency for the citizens of the United States. And that complacency led you to neglect your fellow citizens. It led you to neglect paying attention to your place in the world. And of course, any given individual may have had more or less attention or neglect occurring. Each individual is different. But as a general sense, the trajectory of the country was that you had taken your originating ideals, the ideals of freedom and liberty and independence, and you had taken them kind of to an extreme. You'd taken them far enough that they didn't serve themselves anymore, that they had become the opposite of what they originated as. Independence, the idea of independence taken separate from the idea of interdependence, eventually leads you to total entrapment. The idea of freedom, taken without its kind of opposing and balancing idea of responsibility or accountability, it winds up sending you off the edge of a cliff. So essentially the trajectory of the United States was you were taking these ideals full circle till they didn't make sense anymore, till you lost them. It's like seeing a process all the way through till you're past it and you've left the process completely behind. It's like you started to run a race and then you didn't notice that you passed the finish line and you kept running and you just disappeared. You lost yourselves. Part of what the events of 9/11 helped to do was to reawaken you to your humanity, help reawaken you to your heart centers. And this is where really the shift that occurred has to do with individuals opening their hearts and dealing with their hidden rage or their hidden disempowerment or their hidden sorrow or whatever they'd held inside themselves. But that through that individual healing that has occurred over the course of the last 7 years, you have shifted the trajectory of the United States as a collective or as a country, so that now that essentially there's a rebalancing occurring in the United States where the originating ideals of the country are being rewoven into all of their counterbalancing ideals, freedom with accountability, independence with interdependence. And this is allowing you to reweave yourselves into the energy of the entire globe. It's allowing you to stand side by side with your fellow humans rather than above or below them. And so essentially that event, it broke all of your hearts so that all of your hearts could become whole again. So that you could notice that pre-break your hearts were distorted, that you were missing something already. And again, for each individual, you have your own story about how this has unfolded. But collectively, as you've all taken a deeper look at your lives and at the lives of those around you and at the context of all the lives of people in the world, you've come to a new perspective, and that new perspective puts your country in a new trajectory. Now the trajectory, so if the key word for the former trajectory was immunity or complacency, the key word for the current trajectory is accountability. And this is one of the reasons that the answer to the previous question said that there are some conflicts or some parts of the world where it's very important for the United States to remain involved, because each country has its own lessons that it has learned or perfected, and it has to share with the rest of the world. And the United States is learning about accountability and can share with the rest of the world the truth and the wisdom and the true power in taking accountability for one's actions and for one's intentions and for the results of one's unintended actions or intentions. And so the United States can really help hold other countries accountable for their actions as well, not as a police, not as like a policing agent, but as an agent of truth, because that is one of the contracts that the United States has with the rest of the world. It's always had the contract to hold the values of truth, freedom, and liberty, kind of hold them up for the rest of the world. And so you're finally coming to step into that as fully empowered adults rather than as younger, sort of adolescent resisting agents.
Thank you for listening. You can hear much more and attend live channelings from the Akashic Records by visiting us online at akashictransformations.net.